Hi, Eldon. Welcome to the Impact Revolution channel. It's a big pleasure to have you with us. How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty fine, thank you, Yoshida. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining and making time for us. I'm looking really forward for this interview. And before we go to the business life kind of experience, I normally
Great,
ask a couple of questions that are personal, just to the audience to get to know you a bit better. Is that okay?
great, no problem. That's okay.
All
That's
right.
fine.
So you are in Barbados, which is one of the very hot places that people would love to go. But in your case, okay, if you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, Eldon, where it would be?
I guess that would be Vienna. Vienna, probably Vienna.
Vienna. Okay, that's cool. That's a first time answer. Why, if I can ask?
Well, because I'm a musician and I keep hearing about Vienna and music in Vienna. So yeah, Austria. Yeah, I'd
Ah,
like to wake up there
okay,
at some
very
time.
good. I have a friend
Yeah.
there, so maybe one day you can go. I don't know for sure.
Baby.
All right. Very nice. The second question will be just to get to know you a bit better more as well.
Right.
How someone who really admires you and highly respects you and knows you very well, Eldon, how will define who is Eldon Blackman?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a good question. They'd probably define me as a little bit crazy, a little bit funny,
Okay.
uh, but serious at the same time, and always thinking.
Okay. All right. Very good. Uh, Serious and always thinking. Huh? Now, I read a bit about you, okay? So you've been kind of a teacher for musician in music and students,
Right,
right? And then now you
right.
change a bit for the culture transformation or transformational leadership
Mhm.
and things like that. And I was wondering, that I can see that you've been thinking a lot, I guess, ultimately. I wanted to know what is your why?
What is my why? So my why for the change, or just my why in general?
Your why in general, yeah. What made you move
So
from one part of career path to another one?
to another. All right. So my why is growth. I like growth. My
Okay.
purpose is growth, and so I try to have as many conversations around that
Hmm.
idea as much as possible. So you made reference earlier to Ron Johnson. So I Ron and I go kind of way back, and so I was having a meeting with Ron one day, and he asked me, "Is there anything you do as a conductor that you think could be transferred into business leadership principles, because that's what conductors do, they lead?" And I had, of course, never really thought about that before. And so I went away from the conversation thinking about that for a bit. And then little by little, I started to think of stories and experiences that I had either as a conductor or as a conducting student. And I started to come across stories that had things that could parallel from, things I read, little business things, business leadership things that I read, or other leadership things. And so that's sort of how that happened. It wasn't really planned. It just kind of happened from that one question.
All right. Okay, very
Yeah.
nice. That's lovely. Yeah, I read the story of your newsletter that I will put the link later on in the post in the interview notes if
All
you
right.
want.
Okay.
Yeah, so could you share with you what are your main lessons learned for this leadership so far that you have found out? What is the best or best lessons learned from to be an effective leader for you, Eldon?
So yeah, so one of the major lessons I've learned is the one that actually comes out in the story most,
Uh-huh.
which is, or most obviously, which is listen. As leaders, we sometimes don't, or we underestimate the value of listening. And so there's this story there with Lisa and how she listens to the choir to know when to come in and how to change and so on and so forth. But one of the other stories I have with that is that when I was learning piano, when I was doing piano and learning how to use the pedals on the piano,
Uh-huh.
One day my teacher, it wasn't working the way it was supposed to work. And so my teacher said, Eldon, what are you doing with the pedal? You need to fix that. So I said, fix what? Because as far as I could tell, I wasn't playing any wrong notes. I had all the notes right. So I was trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with the pedal? She said, you aren't hearing what's happening. So I said, no. So she said, okay, play again. So I played again. And whatever it was I was doing or not doing happened again. And she said, you didn't hear that? And I said, no. She said, okay, listen, Eldon, you don't pedal with your foot, you pedal with your ears. And I thought,
Uh-huh.
well, that doesn't make any sense. My feet are what's
Uh-huh.
on the pedal, my foot is what's on the pedal. But then afterwards, I thought about it and I realized what she meant. She meant I needed to listen to what was happening on the piano, the notes and how they were coming together, so I'd know how to move my foot.
Uh-huh.
And so the parallel there for the business and the lesson for me is that there are times when leaders, from just listening to what's happening around them, can tell what's working, what's not working, how we might be able to get it to work better if we just listen. And nobody really has to come and say it directly, listen sir, or listen ma'am, or whoever it is, this is what's happening here. You as a leader can already hear it and you can kind of find out how to fix it just from
Uh-huh.
listening.
All right, that's very interesting. That's very funny story. Yeah, it is. You made me think about it, because sometimes we do stuff, but we don't actually feel or start to become aware of what we are doing. We just in action mode, and sometimes we don't realize what is all
Right.
behind and making and connecting the dots and how if that what we are doing is effective or not, right? And we don't
Exactly.
question
Yeah.
it. Very
Yeah.
good. Okay, I love it. And about this story about Lisa, okay, that because she was blind, right? And
She was,
your
yeah.
leadership is lead like a blind person, right? And
Right.
she was managed to listen very well and then to connect and to enter in the meeting or in the sound on the music part whenever she knew and she felt that it
Yeah.
was the right time.
Right.
Is that a real story or not? Is that it's just a curiosity? No?
No, that's a real story. It is a real story. It's
It's
as
a real
real as you
story.
and I. Yep, as real as you and I are sitting here right now.
All right, that's very cool. Okay, very inspiring. I thought it could be. So is that very nice? All right, very good. So, I understand that you are now changing this career path and you are becoming an entrepreneur or you're starting your own business, is something like that, or you're collaborating with others. As you know, this Impact Revolution channel, the idea is to redefine the business mindset for having a more, let's say, connecting and emotional engaging business and culture, okay, that could promote the well-being not only of the employees but of all the stakeholders. So in that sense, what do you think could be the main lessons that you could share to make business more aware and more accountable of the impact they have in the world and in the other people?
um, so that's an interesting question. From my experience again as a conductor,
Yes.
uh, I've realized that we can okay, so we can focus on trying to get everything perfect.
Hmm.
We can try to get the notes perfect, the sound and the tone perfect, the words or the text. We can try to get that as perfect as possible.
Yes.
But but the trick or what can happen there is that for a conductor, you have this perfect sound in your head. And when the choir starts to sing, if what they're singing doesn't match that perfect sound, you immediately have a decision to make. Am I going to get upset at what I'm hearing and get in there and try to fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it? Or am I going to recognize that these are real people with real problems sitting in front of me who I'm trying to work with and inspire to reach to a vision, a goal? And so what happens a lot of the times, because it did used to happen with me early on in my career. I have tried to work on it. I think
Uh-huh.
I have become a little more successful at it. But when you don't get that perfect sound, it can begin to upset you. You become angry, and then you start giving off that sort of anger, and then guess what? The choir starts giving it back to you. So the way the choir sounds doesn't sound pleasant. It doesn't sound like we're having fun. It doesn't sound like we're enjoying what we're doing and that we're trying to touch people's lives and change
Mm,
people's lives. Uh, so what happens is, or the flip side of that is simple things. You begin to learn your choir members' names. You begin to learn them as individuals. What hobbies do they have? What do they have? Brothers and sisters? Do they have children? Husband or wife? Some significant other. What's happening with them? And then from that, just learning the person as a person, the whole dynamic changed. And now they feel as though you, the leader, recognize them as a person, and they're willing to give more. They're willing to go beyond what's normal. So for me, that lesson of, I think one of the words I heard recently is in becoming more empathetic to people.
yeah.
That really goes a long way in getting in that leader follower or leader team, getting the team to follow and inspiring the team to go further. That recognizing people as individuals is one of the big lessons for me.
Oh, very good. I love it. It was very interesting. Yeah, it's what we call here in emotional intelligence to have a balance, right, between the expectations and the
Yeah.
reality, as well as as you say, it's important to connect with people and consider them as real humans beings instead of just tools to make something beautiful.
Right. So
And
so it goes
then,
beyond, and so it's not perfection. So there's the perfection side of it, but do we want to be perfect or do we want to be impactful, really making an
mm,
impact? That's
mm.
that's the question there.
All right, very good. Okay, making an impact. Yeah. All right. So this is the Impact Revolution channel, Eldon,
Oh
and we
yeah,
talk
it
about
is.
making, and you make a good point about making an impact. So how do you think you can make an impact?
Well, I think I can make an impact in that. First of all, I don't think every day you hear people talking about the parallels between music and business leadership principles. So I think that's already something that would be of interest. And I don't think, even though conductors do lead, if most of them are like me, we don't really think of business, the business side of things like that. As in
Mhm.
how leaders, um, business leaders might work, or how it might work across fields. But I think with the personal experiences that I've had, and being able to share those and make those links, and
Mhm.
again, not necessarily focusing on having the perfect story or being able to tell the story perfectly, um, but actually being able, through the energy and the intensity and the passion with which I share those stories, get
Uh-huh.
people to realize, okay, this is not just about the getting it right, in terms of sounding right or looking right. This is really all about sharing your life experiences and allowing other people to learn from those experiences so that they can have, ideas and practical things to transfer into their own spheres or circles.
Uh-huh. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah. I think it's also about what is in link, which I think which what you just shared. It's about connecting in an emotional level and to
Mhm.
influence or inspire people to change and do better things, right? In a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good, Elon. In that kind of point that you made, which is sharing your lessons learned in the conduction work and all that,
Mhm.
what would be your main lesson learned or the most impactful one that you would like to share?
Hmm. The most impactful one. Impact. So in one of our in one of the rehearsals when I was a conducting student. There was one rehearsal we were preparing this piece, and there was a part of it where the choir had to perform without the conductor leading.
Okay.
uh, or maybe I should rephrase that. There was a section that we had to kind of half sing, half talk. So it wasn't the usual, what the conductor
Uh-huh.
would do to keep the choir together. And we got to that section. We rehearsed it a couple times, and but the conductor wasn't satisfied that we were as together as we should be. And this was close to 200 of us.
Okay. Oh.
So the conductor was almost as if he was like, okay, I really don't know what to do next to get this thing to be right. So he told us, okay, everybody stand. So we stood. He said, okay, now turn around. So we are now backing him. And then he said, now close your eyes. So everybody's like, what? This doesn't make sense. If we were watching him and we couldn't get it right, how were we going to get it right without seeing him or seeing each other or whatever? So anyway, we turned around, we closed our eyes, and he said, all right, ready, go. And so we just started like, I mean, and it was in Latin. It wasn't even in English. It was in Latin, and
Okay.
we started off, and you could hear for the first few seconds that we were timid. We were unsure,
Insecure.
uncertain of what.
Uh,
But then a few seconds into it, it started to really come together. And by the time we got to the end of the section, we got to the end of the section together. We finished together, and all of us, when we opened our eyes, we just stood there for a few seconds, like, wow.
mm,
And even in the real performance, it was together, but I don't think we ever got it that together again.
uh,
And then as I thought about the business leadership principles, I wondered about that, and I realized a couple of things. We didn't we didn't start to gel and come together until we realized how much we were depending on each other.
mm,
And that's one thing for leaders. It's one thing for leaders to realize how much they depend on their team, but then there's another thing for the leader to get the team to realize how much they depend on each other. So
uh-huh.
you're depending on the person next to you to do their job well, so you can do your job well. And it wasn't until we realized how much we were depending on each other that it begin to come together for us. And so
Mhm.
that's one of the big lessons that I've learned, that dependence on each other as a team. Yeah,
That's beautiful. It reminds me to yesterday's interview, that we are all one. Yeah, we are all connected
yeah,
in a way,
yeah. We are
and this interdependent relationship is very true in the business field. So
right.
that's great. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. I normally ask this question farther down in the interview, but I was wondering already. If you could leave a last message, a quote or something to the whole world, Eldon, what will it be?
Last message to the world, man. Just have fun. Life is too short. Just have some fun, man. And by fun, I don't mean just goofing off and clowning around. What I'm actually referring to is what one of the conductors that I look up to, what he mentions as, and I think I said it before: energy, intensity, and passion. um,
Mm,
and it's that learning, that focus on what we're doing, and we're so intently focused on it that we don't even realize that time has passed, how much time
mm,
has passed. You see it in children. I've never come across a bored baby. I've never
yeah.
come across a toddler who's bored, and that's because they spend their time learning stuff. There's
Mm,
always something new to learn, and they have fun doing it. They're always grabbing at this or grabbing at that, or you just see their eyes wandering, and there's always this just insatiable desire to learn. And so that's what I'd say: have fun and keep learning. Just have fun and keep learning.
have fun and keep learning. Yeah? Very good. How do you do that?
Do what? Keep learning.
Yeah, have fun and keep learning. Yeah, have fun and keep learning.
So I think I was just reading something that said it was talking about a couple of celebrities. I think you basically wake up every day as if it's day one. You show up to work every day like if it's day one. Like, I've never done this before. What's new? You know, you just keep looking for something to learn, and basically forget that you know. So for instance, I go back to babies, and this is from uh, a couple of the voice classes. I've taught voice classes a little bit, and people would try to figure out how do we use our voice correctly. And one of the things I always draw reference to is babies cry. A baby can cry all day to the top of its lungs and never get hoarse. And that's because babies haven't unlearned how to do things naturally. We were born sort of knowing how to use our voice. But then we go to school and we're told shh, shh. And then we sort of kind of forget how to use our voice naturally. And so when I tell people that and they think about it, it's like, it's true. Babies can cry all day and not get hoarse. So why does singing for 15 or 20 minutes get me hoarse? Well, that's because you're not using the mechanism the way it's supposed to be used. So, it's we have to recognize, okay, I've learned something, but that doesn't mean there's only one way to do it. Is there another way of doing this? Can I do this better? Is there, how can I be more efficient? What else is out there that I can pull from to help me do this? So, again, their business leadership principles, yes. There's conducting, yes. Okay. Is there anything that we can transfer from one to the next? And so for me, even for me, I wake up now every morning and I'm thinking, what new story can I think of? What else is there in my experience that I can draw on to go, or that would parallel to business leadership? And that alone has just started my brain firing differently. So that's how you have fun. You're just looking for new ways to do things. As you read, what can I learn here? What can I transfer there? It's just literally that, just literally having fun and learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. I think
Yeah.
the biggest barrier compared to children, at least how in the emotional side, is
Mhm.
that, they don't have this ego, right? Because the ego is
Right.
going to build in the few years and then in the
Mhm.
adolescence and all that. And they have this fear of rejection and
Wow.
failure and success and all that.
Mhm.
And that's very interesting, because as you say, naturally we know a lot of things, but we don't use them or repress them. And then
Right.
later on, we don't know, we don't remember how to use them naturally. So
Mhm.
that's a very good point. And I was wondering, in this sense, right? Did you have any barrier or any challenge that you may have to overcome to get to the point that you are now?
Well, I can tell you what my challenge is.
Yes, please.
I was, my challenge with all of this is or my probably what my biggest challenge is. I'm shy. I am really shy.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
I tell
After
people
24 minutes, I wouldn't say that.
if I could conduct the choir from behind, I would. If I could teach class from behind, I would. I am not naturally a spotlight person, and so I what
For
I had
now,
to learn
we're taking our program for now, You can build
for
that
now, for
up,
now.
for now. Don't worry.
Yeah. So so I had to learn how to tell myself, okay, Eldon, it's not, again, same thing. It's not about getting it perfect. It's not about looking perfect. It's about the people who you're trying to reach. So,
Mm,
just be there for them and let them see that you are real so that they too, can be real. So even in doing like some of the interviews and stuff, like I was saying, and conducting the choir and so on and being up front, uh it's something that I've had to work towards. And it's
Mhm.
not that I'm trying to be fake or anything, but it's like, okay, Eldon, there's part of you that you can share with people.
Mhm.
So, do that and have fun doing it, even though you're sort of, but,
Uh,
that's that all, that makes you who you are. It makes you real, and so, yeah, whenever in mass a question like that is like, okay, yeah, that's a challenge for me. It is.
That's very fun. Yeah, it makes completely sense, because it's the
Yeah,
motivation, right? And the
right.
motivation has to be bigger than the fear. The fears
Hmm.
are normally focused in the ego and in the
Right.
self-worth and in the identity. And if the motivation to do the things is bigger because it's beyond yourself, your ego, and it's to add
Right.
value to others, as you just
Hmm.
described and share, that's what keep us moving, right? And so we
Yeah.
can let go all these selfish ideas or ego stuff.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, man.
good. All
Yeah.
right. Very
Yeah.
nice. This is going very well. We have 4 minutes left, Eldon.
Okay.
The interview is going very fun. I was wondering if there is anything you would like to share that we haven't covered so far.
Um. Let's see.
Hmm.
Uh. So when it comes to learning,
Hmm.
one of the things, the same piano teacher who told me about um, pedaling with my ears, she told me whatever you're doing, even though it may not look like or feel like what you're exactly interested in at the point in time, still do it to the best of your ability and learn that all that you can from it, because you never know what you're going to meet in the future.
Uh-huh.
So that came true to me forcefully, even more so now that I'm working on combining music and business leadership,
Hmm.
because my first degree is actually in computer information systems.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I went from that and I made a switch. Well, I did a minor in music as well, but then I switched over to music full time. And
Hmm.
then by the time I got through with my doctorate, I also had um, a bit some educational administration in there. So I'm thinking, okay, so computers, music, educational administration, you're teaching. Well, what's all of this? Like, how am I going to? Is there a way to get all of this to come together? And in the computer field, it was actually software development,
Okay.
software development emphasis. So this sort of programmer thing, and how does a programmer become a conductor and then turn to business leadership principles? And if you sit and you look at the three things on paper, it's almost like this doesn't make sense. These three things just don't come together. But amazingly, thinking of things like this in terms of music and business leadership principles have been starting to sort of bring those worlds together, because programmers have to think logically. Um, of course, the conductors are leading, and then how does that translate into, or parallel to the business world and business leadership? And so for me, each day making connections from one to the other has been exciting. So my thing to tell people, to tell the world, would be learn whatever you can from wherever you can, because some way, someday, you may be able to start making connections from one to the next, and you can start developing your own story, and inspiring people through your own story, because really and truly, knowledge is never wasted. Never is.
I love that. Yeah, it's very true. Thank you so much, Eldon, for sharing that. I think that
You're
was
welcome.
very, very good, and and a good lesson learned. Because
Yeah.
it's like Steve Jobs says. Maybe it doesn't make any sense at this moment, but it will make
Right.
sense later, and we just need to connect the dots.
Yeah.
I interviewed a guy. Well, he was a New York monk.
Nice.
He was a monk in New York for 15 years.
Hmm.
And he was saying that about connecting the dots at the present, right? And
No.
everything
Okay.
happens for a reason. So it
Hmm.
reminds me your story about, do the best of your ability with the knowledge that you have now. and then
Right.
later on, it's like the universe is conspiring to help us each other to yeah, but
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
kind of idealism, but yeah, I think so,
yeah,
everything
yeah,
turns out well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Things come together. It's for a reason. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So thank you so much for your time, Eldon. We have hit
You're
the
welcome.
time of 30 minutes. I don't know if there is any last words, last that you want to share, or we can call it off for now.
Well, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be able to share. Like this was not really on the horizon. Like when Ron asked me that question, I never thought I'd meet a Yoshi interviewing me on LinkedIn and stuff. It's like, so this is cool. I'm having fun. But like I said, just have fun and keep learning, man. Just have fun and keep
Yes,
learning.
yes,
Yeah.
have fun and keep
So
learning. We
thanks
leave
for
it.
having me here.
Thank you so much. It was my absolute pleasure, Eldon. Thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Sure.
Take
All
care.
right. Take care, man. Bye bye.